Okay? Sorry. Okay, so we're starting from the beginning. The revolution begins. Lesson 1, Nicholas Copernicus. Many science historians think that the 16th century, the era of the 1500s, marks the beginning of the scientific revolution. That's because a lot of great scientific discoveries were made and publicized during that time. And more importantly, those scientific discoveries would seriously change the way natural philosophers thought about the world around them. Some say that they even pinpoint the very year when the scientific revolution began, 1543. That's because two very important books were published that year. The first book I want to discuss was written by Nicholas Copernicus, a Polish astronomer. His book was titled On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres. If you studied Aristotle, you should understand the title. Aristotle thought that the planets were embedded in spheres that revolved around the Earth. While Copernicus agreed with Aristotle about the spheres, he made a significant change to Aristotle's view. He put the sun at the center of the universe, while Aristotle had put the Earth at the center. The sun-centered system, called the heliocentric system, was not new. If you studied a natural philosopher named Aristarchus, you might remember that he suggested a sun-centered system around 230 BC. However, the Earth-centered system, also called the geocentric system, was considered the correct view by almost all natural philosophers in the 16th century. As a result, what Copernicus suggested was very controversial. In fact, it was so controversial that Copernicus was hesitant to publish it. It's always hard to publish when you know people might push back on you, right? You might get canceled, if I could use that word in modern terms. So people might not like you.
For now, we're talking about just like the sun and the Earth in the middle.
Yep, that's the Copernican Revolution happening here. So because of the delay, however, okay, so actually let's go back. He was hesitant to publish it. However, most of his close friends, and even one of the most important men in the Roman Catholic Church at that time, a man who was called a former Cardinal Nicholas von Schoenberg, urged him to publish it. Because of the delay, however, he died either shortly after or just as the book was published. Historians are not sure which. There is no historical evidence to back this up, but legend has it that the first printed copy of the book was placed in his arms while he lay dying. According to legend, he awoke from his coma, looked at the book, and then he died peacefully. Again, according to legend, meaning we're not sure, but that's what the word on the street is.
So they don't know for sure, but they just think that happened.
Yes. So then they say, why did Copernicus suggest that the sun is at the center of the universe instead of the Earth? One key reason was that he believed God created the universe, and therefore he thought that the universe should be very orderly. In his book, he wrote that the machinery of the world has been built for us by the best and most orderly workman of all. However, the geocentric view of the universe was very messy. If you studied the work of the ancient natural philosopher known as Ptolemy, who lived from 90 AD to 168 AD, now remember this was around the time the early church was also growing in the Bible. You know that the geocentric view of the universe had to have several epicycles added to it in order to make it consistent with most of the observations astronomers had had. That made it very complicated, which didn't fit well with Copernicus' view of God as an orderly workman. Copernicus' arrangement of the universe was more orderly and pleasing to the eye. And they give you some of the diagrams here in your book. Okay, we're going to move on to the next page. Then they give you an experiment which we can do here shortly, but let me finish chapter 1, which is actually not much longer than this. Also, Copernicus' arrangement could explain some observations that had always puzzled astronomers who believed in the geocentric system. For example, the planets that astronomers knew about during the 16th century were Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They noticed that Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn could appear in the eastern sky right after the sun set in the west. However, Mercury and Venus never appeared in the eastern sky after sunset. When they appeared in sky after sunset, it was always in the west. That was hard to explain in the geocentric system. Do the following activity to understand why. Again, we'll do that activity later. Let me just finish the last section right here. Why did I have you do all that, right? And actually what they did was they took a piece of paper, so you have paper plates, nail, scissors, crayons, a small amount of modeling clay, like Play-Doh, and then an adult to assist you. So we'll come back to these steps. There's 21 steps, and we'll do a different discussion on that. If the Earth is at the center, when the planets are arranged correctly, they can be seen in the eastern sky at sunset. So the placement is very important, whether you see something in the east or in the west. When they use the word natural philosopher, let me just say that's like scientists of old. They were called natural philosophers. It's very sad today that many scientists do not study philosophy now, but they should. So if you're going to be a scientist, make sure you study some philosophy, okay? Let's stay focused now. Let's look at the end. Ancient astronomers could find Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn in the eastern sky at sunset during certain times of the year. However, Venus and Mercury never appeared in the eastern sky at sunset. Mercury appears low in the western sky at sunset when it does appear, and Venus appears a bit higher in the western sky at sunset. Neither of them ever appears in the eastern sky at sunset, however. That's a little bit of technicality. And we have this extra book here for you too on astronomy, the world of astronomy. Any of you, if you want to dive deeper into astronomy, keep in mind that one of the oldest science studies was astronomy. That was the main thing that people studied back in the day. When you look at the stars, when you look at the heavens, right? The Bible actually says the heavens declare the glory of God. There's something about the heavens. And we'll sing a song about that later today. This was a real puzzle for the geocentric system, but it made perfect sense in the heliocentric system. Venus and Mercury never appear in the eastern sky at sunset because they're between the sun and the earth. As a result, there is never a time when the sun is on the one side of the earth and Mercury or Venus is on the other side. Because of this, Mercury and Venus can never be in the opposite sky as the sun. Since Mercury usually appeared lower than Venus in the western sky at sunset, closer to the sun, Copernicus decided that it was the planet closest to the sun. This provided an arrangement of planets that allowed astronomers to finally understand why finding Mercury and Venus at sunset was so difficult from finding the other planets that were known at the time. Again, it got a little technical after that experiment. Don't worry about the technicality. The main thing is that there was a reason and an explanation for why he believed the sun was the center of the solar system. And what scientists do is they have a hypothesis, they have observations, they have data they collect. They have to have a reason for the thing they're studying. So let me say this and then we'll do the lesson reviews and be done. When you look at a phenomena, for example, some of you talked about Isaac Newton. When you look at a phenomena of something falling, it then makes you ask, why is it falling? So then scientists, they see, this is called the phenomena. The phenomena is the thing is falling. That's the phenomena. The explanation is, oh, maybe there's something called gravity. So then you have a theory or a law to explain the phenomena. Make sense? But you need to have a phenomena first in order to have an explanation.
Do they know for sure that the sun is in the middle of the atmosphere?
Yes, of the solar system. Yes, we know that for sure. Yes, we know that. We've had time. We've sent out satellites. We've sent out different things to explore the galaxy and the universe. And we know that the sun is the center of our solar system. So remember this today. Copernicus set the stage. I wrote his name earlier, so that's why I thought about him again. He set the stage. Copernicus he did something that sparked the scientific revolution. But in order to understand some of the impact of his work, they talked about Aristotle. Aristotle lived around 300 BC, and he was a Greek philosopher. He did a lot of great work. Okay? So there's a lesson review at the very end. I'll read the questions. I'll stop the recording and we'll talk. The first one, what was controversial about Copernicus' book? We'll talk about that. Number two, Copernicus put the planet dash closest to the sun. Of course, the answer is Mercury. Now, let's talk about two more questions. They want you to make a drawing of Copernicus' view of how the sun, planets, and stars are arranged. Explain how it was different from the view of most natural philosophers. And then do what the older students are doing. This is for the older students. In addition, use the heliocentric system to explain why Mercury and Venus never appear in the eastern sky just after sunset. Here's what I want us to do as a class though. Go ahead and draw the sun in your notebook. Oh no, just find a good page, a place in your notebook. Draw the sun, and then I want you to draw 8 rings around the sun. Okay, everybody get that? So draw the sun in the center, and then draw 8 circles around the sun, and then draw smaller planets. Basically, you're drawing the solar system. Let's do that now. Let's draw the solar system.